Welcome back to another video from Coasters and Places here. So in this video today, I'm going to be ranking, in my personal opinion, the top 20 roller coasters in the country of Canada. So Canada is a country that doesn't have a ton of coasters. Some coasters that are just not good at all. Some that are okay and decent. And others that are really great. So with that being said, there's just not a lot to choose from. So like the lower ranked coasters on this list may not be very great. I mean, none of the coasters on this list though are like awful or anything, but just maybe not as great as other coaster ranking videos on a different category. Maybe just simply because the quantity of coasters to choose from. But with that being said, I still got 20 that I'd like to talk about and how I personally would rank those 20 coasters. And by the way, if you are not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and go ahead and give this video a like. And let me know also in the comments down below what you think is the best coaster in Canada. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with the video. At number 20, I have Toboggan Nordique, and this is going to be at La Ronde. So this is a Zamperla Wild Mouse coaster. So it's just really a basic Wild Mouse. It's not anything too thrilling, but it's not rough, and it is fun for what it is. But it's a very heavily cloned coaster. Just a basic layout, just nothing super unique, but it's not necessarily a bad coaster either. My number 19 spot is going to go to Snoopy's Racing Railway at Canada's Wonderland. So this is an Art Engineering family launch coaster, and this is indeed a family coaster. So it is fun though. It's really fun. It's a smooth ride. It's not too intense though for small children, but with that being said, it's just not super thrilling. But it serves its purpose well as a kids ride, and again, it does that well. And just being a coaster that the whole family could ride. And again, the smoothness on this, the smoothness is just absolutely smooth as can be. Number 18 here is Wild Beast. This is also at Canada's Wonderland. So this is a coaster, wooden coaster here, and it is rough in spots. Sometimes, some rides you may get a rougher ride than you do other times. But with that being said, even though it is rough, it does still have a good amount of airtime. The layout's not bad, and it is pretty intense. But as I said, the roughness just kind of holds this one back from being any higher on this list. On the rides where the roughness isn't as bad, it could be placed higher, but on the rides where the roughness is pretty bad, it's not great at all. But yeah, still airtime. It's nice to have that airtime, and the intensity is always great. Also, continuing at Canada's Wonderland, at 17 is Dragonfire, which is an aerodynamics looper. So the inversions on this particular looper do have a fair amount of G-force, which is always nice. This is an aging aero looper, so it is kind of rough in spots. There is some head banging. It's not as rough as some aero loopers out there though. So that's what keeps it from being not on this list or further down the list. And the corkscrews are actually really fun on this one though. So that's why I personally will put Dragonfire at number 17. Number 16 is also at Canada's Wonderland. This is Fly. So this is a good old Mack Rides Wild Mouse coaster. Then this is, yes, just a typical Wild Mouse layout, but it's a good Wild Mouse. Also, which sets this Wild Mouse apart, is that it has a really great first drop. And it's not really rough, but it does have those classic Wild Mouse laterals that people that do like wild mice enjoy. It's just a good ride. Really no really complaints about Fly for me. So now we're at Luron for number 15, and this coaster is called Dragon. So this one, honestly, to me is just a lot of pure fun. This is a absolutely phenomenal family coaster indoors, so that adds some darkness to it for sure. And it has the fun dragon theme, and hence the name Dragon. This is just a smooth, unique, not going to find it anywhere else, coaster with some great theming with that dragon featured, and it's just a fun family coaster. Like, it's just fun. I think the whole family would enjoy it, and I just can't help but have a good time on this ride. At number 14, I put the Mighty Canadian Mindbuster at Canada's Wonderland. So I do think this is better than Wild Beast, which is in the same park. This one has a good layout. It has a really great helix at the end on this one. So the first half is definitely superior with all the airtime versus the second half. The second half can definitely get a little rough. Some days more than others. The first half, though, it's not really rough. I think it's pretty, as I said, pretty superior. Lots of airtime, pretty intense, fun for that first half. The second half, though, is what keeps this coaster ranked pretty low. If they could fix that second half, this would definitely be ranked higher. Number 13 is Thunderbolt at Peony Playland. So this coaster has a big con that is very, very short, but it's really smooth. The launch is pretty punchy. The first top hat has some good ejector, and there's also throughout the whole layout, there's some minor weak ejector thrown in the whole layout. And again, it's a smooth ride. It's just very, very short, but the ejector's nice. Again, just too short, unfortunately. Number 12, I have Thunder Run from Canada's Wonderland. So this is just a fun family coaster. It has some great theming, and it has just a really good location in and out of the mountain. There's no roughness with this coaster whatsoever. I like the dark sections where it goes in the mountain. You also get to go around the track twice, so it makes for a longer ride. Again, it's just a fun coaster. Great for families, great for anyone. And yeah, that's why I have it at number 12. Number 11, this is Monster at Luron. So this actually has two different tracks that do provide different rides. They're not like the two tracks that you'll see that's pretty identical on racing coasters. These are different tracks, but part of the same name coaster. So you'll have to ride like each one separate to get the ride to get both ride experiences. So this is a pretty long ride. It's not really rough. I didn't find it to be. So the hills are providing pretty good airtime in the first half. There's some good laterals to be found on this coaster. The biggest problem holding this coaster back from being up higher to me is it just doesn't really have the best layout. It's got a really funky layout. It's definitely an interesting ride, and again, I like a long ride, and this is definitely a long ride. And again, it's not rough, it's just the layout's just kind of weird, has some interesting transitions. Sometimes I wonder what's going on, but it's not an awful ride by any means. At the number 10 spot, I have Wonder Mountain's Guardian, which is at Canada's Wonderland. So this is more of a 4D interactive dark ride coaster. I'd almost say it's more dark ride than coaster, but it's still definitely a coaster. It has coaster track elements to it. And it does have one of the largest drop tracks in the world, which is pretty freaking neat. The dark ride part is very interactive and is a ton of fun though. The coaster is nothing like super scary or anything, and the coaster part itself is pretty short. But the whole ride is a lot of fun. That's why I have a number 10, because every time I just have so much fun on this ride. Just can't beat it for the fun department. So at Canada's Wonderland, number 9 is the Backlot Stunt Coaster. This coaster, it's not too rough. It has some good theming. The upward helix at the beginning pulls some great positive G-forces. Some pretty good intensity. A lot of people call this a family coaster. It borderlines on thrill coaster though, honestly. And the launches are pretty decent. They're pretty intense, but they're not like over the top intense where they're going to scare most people away though. Overall, Backlot Stunt Coaster, in my opinion, is just a real fun, enjoyable, pretty intense ride. Number 8, this is Dragon Mountain at Marineland. So this coaster, kind of a weird one a little bit, but it is an aero coaster, and it is regarded by some to be the best aero out there, which I disagree with that, but it is definitely top 5 aeros, I would think. If not, definitely top 10 aeros. It's a long ride. It's not rough at all. It has a good usage of tunnels, and it has intense loops, and it has this really cool what they call a butterfly inversion, which I haven't really seen on anything else, honestly. It's just a shame it's at the park it's at, which isn't really a great park at all, but it's a wonderful coaster though. And that is why it's at number 8. Number 7 at Canada's Wonderland is Vortex. This is an aerodynamics suspended coaster. It is very smooth, and it has that great out of control feeling with the swinging cars. It feels like it runs super fast, faster than it actually does, which makes for a pretty thrilling ride. It is a little on the shorter side though, that's why I can't place it any higher, but it definitely does swing a lot, as I did say. Oh, and it has an absolutely great location, the way it goes over the water and interacts with Wonder Mountain there at Canada's Wonderland. This is by some considered to be actually the best aerodynamic suspended coaster, actually, even. At number 6, I have the wooden roller coaster over at Playland, which is often just known as Coaster. So this is an older wooden coaster, but it is held up well with the time. It's absolutely incredible coaster. It's not rough at all. It does have some crazy laterals and airtime. In particular, it has a lot of ejector airtime. And the bunny hills it does have tend to launch you from your seat. So those are pretty crazy. This is just a very well maintained wooden coaster with just ridiculous amounts of airtime. And we're heading into our top 5, and kicking it off is Vampire La Ronde. So this is a classic Batman clone, Batman the Ride clone, that's present at several different Six Flags parks. This is just a really well done clone. It's intense and forceful, very fast, just obviously pulls a punch, smooth, with a absolutely wonderful layout. That's definitely why it was cloned, because it just has that great layout. It is a bit on the short side though, but still an absolutely fantastic ride. I have no complaints here about Vampire. Number 4, I have Yukon Striker at Canada's Wonderland. So this is a B&M dive coaster. It has a huge, great first drop. Absolutely phenomenal first drop on this one that goes into an underground part that I really like. Adds to the appeal of the ride for sure. It has some great inversions, especially the vertical loop, which is very intense, and the whip on the Immelman is really great as well. And it's just an incredibly smooth ride, and it feels like a complete layout for a dive coaster. It's absolutely fantastic addition to Canada's Wonderland. I'm going to kick off our top 3 and start with Goliath at La Ronde, and this is easily the best ride at La Ronde. So this is a mini B&M Hyper because it doesn't quite have a drop of 200 feet, but that doesn't make it any less great in my opinion. It's very smooth, it just has great sustained floater airtime, just carries throughout the layout. Phenomenal. I love that airtime. That's why I have to put it above Yukon Striker. And it just has a really great drop actually after the turnaround as well, which I find to be an absolutely fantastic part of the ride. I just really like Goliath over at La Ronde. Just don't really have any complaints with it. Think it's a great coaster. At this point, you probably guessed the number 1 and number 2 spot, but if you didn't, here is number 2, which is Behemoth at Canada's Wonderland, the B&M Hyper coaster they have. This has strong floater airtime all throughout the layout, just keeps going, love that. And overall, just great speed and pacing as well. The helixes give good G's, especially there is a very intense helix towards the end. That one especially gives those great G's out. And there is also really good final airtime hills. So your first half of the ride's really good and your second half of the ride's good as well. So it's not one of those coasters where, hey, your first half's good, then your second half it dies. No, this is just stays good throughout. But I do think there is one coaster in Canada that is better than Behemoth. And of course at number 1 is Leviathan at Canada's Wonderland, the B&M Giga Coaster. It has a huge, incredible first drop, being a Giga Coaster. Just seems like that first drop goes on and on forever. It has incredible speed throughout. And the Camelback actually following that first drop has really great airtime in particular. That is one moment that stands out to me. Very smooth, good floater throughout the layout, and just maintains that crazy intensity, that crazy speed throughout, the smoothness, the airtime just keeps going. Just a really well paced, well-rounded ride. That is what you get with Leviathan. And that is, personally, in my opinion, what I think the best coaster is in Canada. Do you agree with this? Do you disagree? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Just remember to keep it respectful, as we all have our own opinions, and nothing's wrong with having an opinion that's different from somebody else's. And please, if you enjoyed this video, please like and give my channel a subscribe. It just helps me against the YouTube algorithm and helps my channel grow and put out more quality content. Again, this is Coasters and Places, and thank you so much for watching.